I was hoping you could walk us through a little bit the soundscape of a young Tammy Tuesdayz and what it was like being very, very little and what was going on in that part of your life.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? You first off, you got me cracking up, okay? Because it's super facts what you're saying, bro. um, and it's funny because my dad was a musician, right?
Mm.
He was actually the lead guitarist for the Beatles England tour. So
What?
yeah, yeah, my dad was a guitarist. He was also the vocal and musical director for Mary Wells, who was a Motown artist. So music has been a big part of my life, right? Since young. So, a lot of Motown, a lot of oldies, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're like,
Wow.
okay, hold up.
I was like, yo, sometimes the answers come in hard, sometimes they come in soft. You just never really know what to expect with this question. It goes everywhere. But that one was like,
Exactly.
my dad toured with the Beatles.
Well, to me, it's like, that was, my dad. So to me, it's just, normal, but, always jam sessions at my house. It's crazy. And, like, it's funny because, my dad passed away, many years ago. And, before he passed away, he was like, the one thing that I do not want you to do is to let my guitars, collect dust in a closet, right? And then when I got of age, I contacted Steve's the music store. And I was like, yo, I have like some Gibson 500s, that were on tour with the Beatles. And it's like, I sold them for ridiculous amounts to collectors because I was like, I don't want them to collect dust. And I'm not a guitar person. So I didn't sell all of it. I still have a good amount, but I sold some, because I was like, that was part of his wish. So all that to say, yeah,
That's
music's
a
been a part of my
big
life.
answer, but we got to go deeper still is because we talked about your dad, but we didn't really talk about you. So at
Yeah,
this
exactly. So,
age,
okay.
what are you?
Okay. So my music.
But
Yeah.
like, were
You know
you
what?
like
I love,
involved in music already at like that age? Because sometimes when you
yeah,
have
yeah,
these
yeah.
moments, it's like from that point on, you're already in it.
I'm already in it, and like my dad, because he was a musician first and foremost, I learned piano, I learned violin, I play flute to this day. Um, so yeah, music is a big part. And as for musical taste, it's funny. I love those olden Motown type of vibes because I feel like it was fun, it was musical, right? Like you heard the instruments, you know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
for me, yeah, it's always been that. And it's funny because my mom was into, like, I guess soft rock, like sort of, and also rock, like, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. So I always had those kind of vibes too, So it's funny because to this day, obviously, I'm an R&B singer, gospel, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like I love Biff Naked. Like that's like my go-to person. Like
Yeah.
I freaked out when she followed me on Instagram. I was like, what? Biff Naked's following me? Oh my God.
That is too
Like
much.
I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. So yeah, so that's my musical, I guess, journey as a young
Nah, because
Tammy.
there's still even more questions. Yo, I'm not even. Yo, I'm pretty thorough with this. Because listen, like you're here, we could always set this up again in a couple months to keep going through the chapters of your life. Is how I look at it,
Mm-hmm,
especially with the more local people. But you know what I know people want to know is when you was little,
mm-hmm.
was you busting dances and stuff? Were you all into that side of life?
It's funny because no, I was actually a really big introvert.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I had no friends. My animals were my friends. We had like a zoo at my house, like mad animals. So yeah, no, just music animals. I wasn't busting dances, but I've always been singing, to like Whitney Houston and Mariah
Mm.
Carey and the Supremes and all these crazy things.
All right, so there's one more question, and it's basically like I try to cover the elements, right? So you got the visual. I
Yeah.
mean, you play instruments close enough to production. So all that is left now is the visual side, the graffitis, the hip hop side. Like, did you draw at all? Were you into that side of life?
Nope. I can't even draw stick people, man. Like that's how bad it is.
I respect it,
But
yo.
you know what? I like painting. I'm good with painting and shading. Like that's interesting. So I used to do like abstract, but
I relate
listen,
to what you just said. Big abstract you could do, cause
abstract I could do. It's like, you know what I'm saying? So it's interesting because it allows us to, like, you know what I'm saying, sort of put into a painting with colors and shading and emotions, you know,
Nah, I
without it
respect
being
that.
an actual drawing. You have to feel it, sort of kind of like music. You got to feel music, right? Like you got to feel it inside of you. You have to, and that's why I love those olden type songs, you know. Not that I'm shitting on the like 2021 music, but it's so superficial. Like to a certain point, I'm like, I can't deal with this. Like, how are we rapping now or making music about taking drugs? Like, how is that elevating
So I could
anything?
so I could just respond to it and go. People often say that, and I think they often are referring to Billboard and Pop Spheres. But everything exists, and back in the day, Billboard and Pop Spheres still promoted the same shit. So it's like,
Facts,
I'm sorry, but
facts.
Short Dick.
Mainstream.
Did you ever hear Short Dick, man? That shit was a
No.
banger back in the day. It was a weird
Yeah.
ass, terrible. Like everyone would have judged it the same thing, but everybody knows what it is. Maybe not you, but like in general. So like
Yeah.
honestly, some of that pop music back then was still trash and still promoted. They were
I
just
agree.
not allowed to say Xannies, so they said alcohol, and they weren't allowed. And then they slowly pushed it, but like, I don't know. It's like Illmatic didn't sell like people act like it did. Illmatic was like a
Mm-hmm.
classic 10 years later when we look back type thing. So I would
Yeah.
argue that a lot of that stuff is there today. It's just
Facts.
buried.
Yeah. You know what? Super facts. What you just said, I have no rebuttal because all I can say is facts. Real talk.
I mean, I heard
Real talk.